We've talked in some of our previous videos regarding using and saving stitch settings in the personal program. So the personal program is identified with that little heart with the smiley face, and boy does that area truly make me smile. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. One thing that we have on this machine is called temporary memory. So just to give you an idea, if I always like the stitch length just a little bit smaller, and maybe I'm making a zigzag and it's a little bit wider and a little closer together, that's the setting for today's project. And maybe I've got one more stitch that I've made really wide and really long. Okay, so as I stitch, the settings that I made those stitches, as I go from stitch to stitch, are remembered. And that's temporary because right now if I turn the machine off, those clear back to their normal settings. But while it's on, I can go from stitch to stitch and it's remembering what my favorite settings are. But that's temporary. So what if we always are using this stitch at these settings, or even with a few other things added? Maybe you like it mirror imaged, or maybe you like the tension to always be super tight, for example. You can save this stitch with all these settings in the personal program. So if I touch the little picture of the heart with the smiley face, there is a picture of a floppy disk for saving. So when you pick it, it's going to highlight the stitch, give you like that little picture, and you need to touch the yellow box, and that saved it. Let's do that again. Okay, so let's come back out. Let's pick another stitch, and let's make it a little wider and a little longer. And you can put it in just normal too, but let's just go ahead. I'm going to touch the personal program. I'm going to touch the saving feature, and now you see another box. So one's in there. Now I need to save this one. And for fun, I'm going to just do a straight stitch, cleared out, nothing fancy to it. I'm going to save that to my personal program and touch the yellow box. So what have I been doing here? I have just kind of been making copies of the stitch, and if there was to be settings, for example, if I did that honeycomb, I made it really wide. Let's save it again really small, so it's very obvious it's going to be the different one. Let's do one more in here. Touch the personal program, go into the save feature, touch the yellow box. All right, so there's 4 stitches in there. So let's just kind of go back. Let's say we turned our machine on, and those 4 stitches are the ones that I really need to use on the project. I've saved them, and so instead of writing a little sticky note and sticking it to my machine, I have them in the personal program. So we're going to touch the heart, and to retrieve the stitches we've put into their little folders, touch it. So these stitches, so I have my straight stitch, I have my first honeycomb stitch that I made it really wide. I had that other stitch that I kind of, oh yeah, that's right, it was mirror imaged, so it remembered that. And then we have the little small honeycomb stitch. So what I can do is, instead of jumping all over my machine from decorative stitch to a buttonhole or back, I could just put all the stitches that I'm going to be using all on one screen. And so today we're just going between these stitches, because those are my 4 stitches with their exact settings for my project. So that's one way that I've used them, and also too, just finding, like sometimes when I have people sew out decorative stitches and they get to a stitch and they're like, this is my new favorite decorative stitch. Do right then and there, just pop it over into your personal program so that you'll remember that it's there and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's right where I know where it is, instead of trying to remember which menu it was on. So sometimes some of your favorite stitches can just go setting in to the personal program. So let's say you're done with a project and we want to delete some of these stitches out of here. We don't need them all the time. Maybe we just are using them now at different settings. So come to the screen where you can retrieve it, save it, or trash can, which is the delete. So you'll notice the little trash can on each of the stitches. So I'm going to just touch, and are you sure you want to do the trash can or deleting them? And green check mark would confirm that. So I'm going to delete everything except that fun decorative stitch, because that's just one I don't want to forget where it is. But then I can come back in and say, oh, yep, here's my other favorite decorative stitch, put that into the personal program, and then I'm sewing out some other ones. Here's my favorite blanket stitch. I always use that at the far right needle position. I can save that to my personal program. It's just so nice because that area, things that are put in there, are saved even after you turn the machine off.